Okay, so today we are going to start chapter 16, the divine and demonic natures, natures. It's a very interesting topic. Okay, so we can differentiate. How can we differentiate between a good person and a bad person, like a divine and a demonic person? And before we start the class, please let us take the blessings of the beautiful deities of ISKCON Mangaluru, Sri Sri Radha Govindji. Sri Sri Radha Govindji ki Jai. Okay. So here, the synopsis of chapter 16 we'll see. So in chapter 15, describe the banyan tree of the material world. The modes of material nature nourish both the upper auspicious divine branches of the tree and the lower, the demonic branches. Extra roots. So we saw all this, right? Where who was there in each of the branches, what is the roots and everything, right? And in chapter 16, explains the divine qualities that elevate one on the tree and leads ultimately to liberation. Okay, so in chapter 16 we'll see what are the divine qualities that take us higher, and like we should try to leave the demonic qualities. And chapter 16 also explains the demonic qualities and the mentality which drives one to lower tree and ultimately to hell. So it's up to us where we want to go, whether we want to choose the divine qualities and elevate ourselves upwards, or choose the demonic qualities and go down into the hellish planets. So it's up to us. Okay. So in 1 to 3 shloka, we'll see Lord Krishna lists 26 characteristics of saintly people, qualities that elevate one on the banyan tree and ultimately lead to liberation. So let's see what those qualities are. Okay, so here are the 26 qualities. So first is fearlessness, abhayam. Okay, so and you can see the classification, the varna and ashrama is also given. So this fearlessness is mainly for sannyas ashrama. Okay, so first they're discussing about sannyasis. Okay, so what are the qualifications that are required, qualities that are required for a sannyasi? So sannyasi should be fearless. See, completely dependent on Supreme Lord's mercy. See, because sannyas, he does not have any money, he does not have any place to live, any shelter to live. So he is completely dependent on Krishna for food, shelter, or wherever, because he does not have a permanent place. His duty is to preach Krishna consciousness. So he does not know where he will stay, what he'll eat. So it totally, he has to depend on Krishna. But once he leaves all his family members and accepts sannyas, and if he fears, oh, I've left all my family members, will Krishna really take care of me? Will he, protect me? Will he give me everything? If he's still fearless, then he should not accept sannyas. But if he has confidence that Krishna will surely protect me, and if he is fearless, then he should take to the sannyas ashram. Because sannyasis generally, sometimes they have to stay in the forest, where there'll be wild animals. In the night, sometimes they have to stay. There'll be wild animals, right? And it'll be dark also, so they may get scared, right? So at that time, they should understand that Krishna is there along with them, along with them. So they should not be fearless. I mean, they should totally depend on Krishna, and Krishna will protect, and they should be fearless. Okay, they should be convinced that Paramatma will give all protection to the surrendered soul. Okay, then only he should take sannyas. So next quality of a sannyas, purification of one's existence. Okay, strictly follow rules and regulations. Okay, they should follow whatever rules and regulations that are given for the shastras, for their varna, and especially forbidden intimate association with women. So sannyasis should never intimately closely associate with ladies, women. And example, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was personally very strict. So we all know that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's a mercy avatar. Okay, but even though he's a mercy avatar, he never used to allow ladies to come in front of him. It does not mean like he does not like ladies or something like that. Because he's a sannyasi, he is like he should be he should be strict, right? So that's why the ladies also, they used to bow, do pranam from far, seeing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So nobody would come close and talk to him, nothing like that. From far, they would just offer their obeisances to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they would take his blessings from far. So what happened is, example, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu punishing Chota Haridas. So once what happens, Chota Haridas was sent to a particular lady's house for begging some rice to prepare food for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he goes to that lady's house, where probably that lady, that young lady, she was not properly dressed or something. And Chota Haridas, somehow he just looks lustfully at that lady because she was not dressed properly. He just, in his mind, he thought, he didn't do anything. He just thought that, and he took the bhiksha, that rice, and then he came back. And then the rice was cooked, and it was given to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to eat. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, the rice looks very nice today. From where did you get this rice? Then they said that from so and so. Who went and got? He said Haridas Thakur went and got this rice from so and so, Mataji. Then he gets angry because he knows Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is like the super soul. He's there in everybody's heart. And he knew Chota Haridas. He looked lustfully at this lady. He thought lustfully about this lady. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately got angry. He said, from now onwards, I don't want to see Chota Haridas. Because he was staying with Lord Chaitanya, he should behave like a sannyasi, and a sannyasi should never even think about lustfully about the woman, or they should not talk. Have any intimate relationship. They should not talk or anything like that. They should be far away from ladies. Okay, so because of this, he punished Chota Haridas. He said, no, from now onwards, I don't want to see his face. Ask him not to come. But all the other devotees didn't understand why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is refusing him. So Chota Haridas, he fasts for 3 days. And then later, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reveals that this is what happened. That is why I don't want to see Haridas. Okay, then Haridas, all the devotees try to convince Haridas, saying that, okay, just Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will cool down, then he will accept you, don't worry. But then he did not accept. Even after a year, he was not accepted. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu not talk to Chota Haridas. Finally, he gave up his life. He commits suicide by jumping into one of the rivers, pure rivers, and he gives up his life. Okay, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he knows everything, right? So in his mind, he thought, when the devotees came and told that we are not able to see Haridas, we think that he must have committed suicide. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, yeah, he did a good thing. It's a good example for everybody who thinks in future, nobody will do like this. Okay, it's just to teach a lesson through his disciple. Actually, he had no hatred against Chota Haridas, but for people like us to, we need examples, right? So, examples can be given through Lord's devotees, right? So that's why Chota Haridas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used Chota Haridas as an instrument to show that sannyasi should never intimately associate with the ladies. Okay, just to show that example. Okay, and third, cultivation of knowledge. Okay, duty of a sannyasi must cultivate and give transcendental knowledge, especially to householders. See, people generally who are in grihasthas, grihastha ashram, they're so much into sense gratification that they forget about spirituality. So it's the duty of a sannyasi to cultivate. What does a sannyasi do? He does bhikshatana, right? He goes from house to house begging. The sole purpose of begging is to indirectly, give them knowledge of Krishna consciousness. See, it's not like he goes just for food over there, right? Please give me food, Bhikshandehi, he says, right? So it does not mean he's just directly going for food, just for the sake of food. He goes to each house so that with the pretext that he can educate them in Krishna consciousness. At least in that way, they will hear a few words about Krishna. Okay, because the grihasthas, they're so much engrossed in sense gratification that they forget about Krishna. right? And they get so involved in their daily duties that they forget about Krishna. That's why it's the duty of a sannyasi to give them that transcendental knowledge about Krishna, especially to grihasthas. And one more thing is humility. So when a sannyasi goes begging from door to door, right, he becomes humble. See how difficult it is for us to beg from house to house. See, many people, even I've observed, like they in Krishna consciousness, I've seen they feel what is it? When you have to do book distribution, you have to face a lot of insults. Many people slam the door on your face. They say, "Oh, you have no other work," so you have to bear all these insults, right? You need a lot of humility when you're doing book distribution, especially. So that's why many devotees, even in ISKCON, they say, please don't ask us to collect donations or do book distribution. Other than that, we'll do everything. See, you need so much humility and humbleness to do such things. So here also, sannyasi, see, to go beg for food from door to door, it's like he needs a lot of humility. Okay, when he goes to from door to door to each grihastha's house to awaken Krishna consciousness, and in return they give something, right? So it like requires a lot of humility. Okay, so these are the three qualities for a sannyasi. Okay, next we'll go to grihastha, qualities of a grihastha. Charity. So charity can be given, can be given only by grihasthas, because a sannyasi or a vanaprastha or a brahmachari, they are totally, I mean, like they don't have any money with them, right? So only the grihasthas, they earn money, so they can give money to the other three ashramas. So charity should be given by the grihasthas, and that charity should be given in the mode of goodness. So what is the charity in the mode of goodness? Right time, right place to a right person. And what is that? You should give it to propagate Krishna consciousness. That is charity in the mode of goodness. So you have to give 50% of your income to propagate Krishna consciousness. See, it is clearly said, not somewhat 10%, 20%. You have to give, spend 50% of your income to propagate Krishna consciousness. So charity in passion and ignorance is a waste of time. Obviously, if you do charity in passion means you do it for fame, name. And ignorance is like you give it to a person just for, I mean, like it's that person is, I mean, like maybe you give it to a film star or politician. That's just, I mean, like it's just a waste of time. So that we can neglect. So charity should be done in the mode of goodness. Goodness means for propagation of Krishna consciousness, and you should spend 50% of your income. So next, self-control.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Pranam
I
Mataji.
have a question.
Yeah, please.
Women also considered in Grihastha, is it?
Sorry?
Normally Grihastha, husband and the wife, or
Sorry,
only
Mataji.
wife? Both, is it?
And your voice is breaking, Mataji. I'm not able to get you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, Mataji.
Okay. You see Grihastha, I mean, is it husband and wife, or husband separate or wife separate?
No, Grihastha means family, Mataji.
Family means the whole family, is it?
Yeah, wife, husband, children, if they're children.
Okay. So you say
Yeah.
50% of the income. Okay, the
Uh,
husband should give, or if the wife, say the wife also working, the wife also gives, is it?
Mataji, it's okay. As a family, you give 50%, Mataji. That's
Oh,
it.
it's the family as a whole, is it?
Yeah, yeah.
Ah, okay, okay, okay.
Whatever in your family you I mean, earn, you can give 50% of your income, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah, yeah. Haribol. Yeah, self-control. This is also for grihastha. So especially sex life should be used only for propagating Krishna conscious children. So we need to have that control. So we should not have sex just for sense gratification. So we should have sex life only for getting Krishna conscious children. So if you want to get Krishna conscious children, not one, you can have 100, but provided that you cultivate them in Krishna consciousness. Okay, so otherwise you're not fit to be a parent. If you don't want children, then don't have sex life at all. If you don't want children, but if you want to have sex life, you must have children so that they are cultivated in Krishna consciousness. See, so nowadays people have sex life with using contraceptive pills just for sense gratification. So that should be avoided. Okay, so we should have sex only for getting Krishna conscious children. Okay, next is sacrifice. This is also for Grihastha because requires material resources, Agnihot, therefore, especially for Grihastha. See, when you have to perform a yagna, you need a lot of money for that. See, the ghee is costly, and the things that you have to put in the yagna and fire sacrifice, or you need many things, cloth, grains. So all these are needed, which is very costly. A lot of expenses required. So that's why they're saying Sankirtana Yagna is the best. Okay, so that's why in Kali Yuga they say Sankirtan Yagna is the best. It is most inexpensive. Anybody can do it, no qualification required, and you get the highest benefit. Now, Vedic study. So, Grahastha is over. Now they're coming to Brahmachari, student life. So, Vedic study. So, he is recommendation for Brahmachari is celibacy and engagement of mind in the study of Vedic literature. And Brahmachari, so Brahmachari means from 5 to 25 years is a Brahmachari's life. Okay, he's totally under in Gurukul, under the charge of the Guru. Okay, so he has to be strictly celibate these 25 years. Okay, he has to be celibate in the sense he has to control his senses and his mind has to be steady. Only if he's celibate, I mean, like he's not in touch with Matajis or anybody, is his mind celibate. I mean, like if he's celibate, then his mind is steady. Only if his mind is steady, then can he focus on Krishna consciousness. Okay, so he can study the Vedas very nicely. Then his mind will be sharp and he can study. But if he has other avocations, his mind gets disturbed and he will not be able to study properly. So that's why they strictly say you have to be a celibate. Okay, you have to maintain celibacy, refrain from sex, or I mean, like, and even talking to ladies till you're 25, till you finish your education. Okay, next for all, especially Vanaprastha, they're saying austerity. So, human life is meant for liberation. For that, tapasya is a must. See, actually, our whole life is divided into, for example, if it's for 100 years, 0 to 25 years is brahmacharya, and 25 to 50 is grihastha, and 50 to 75 is vanaprastha, and 75 to 100 is sannyas. Okay, so 0 to 25, you spend your life in studying. 25 to 50 is grihastha life, where you have responsibilities. You have to get your son educated, your daughter married. And once all the responsibilities are over, 50 to 75 is vanaprastha, where you dedicate, I mean, like all your responsibilities are over. So now you dedicate your life. The husband and wife totally dedicate their life to Krishna. So they totally, they are on pilgrimages. They whatever they do, they totally their life is for Krishna. Okay, so that's the purpose of human life. Human life is meant for liberation, not for sense gratification like animals, hogs, and dogs. Okay, we have to, we need, it's not for living for sense gratification or for comforts. It is, I mean, like you have to do tapasya is a must in this human life if you want liberation. Okay, so one must retire after household life approximately 50 years of age. So 50 to 75 is vanaprastha. So where you focus mostly on Krishna conscious activities, not on your family or your children, or you forget about them because the responsibility is over now. Okay, so and you should focus on what? Austerity of body, mind, and tongue. Body means you should do Krishna conscious activities. In the mind also you should think of Krishna, tongue chanting and tasting Krishna prasadam, and refutes show bottle spiritualists who say there is no need of austerity in life and one can keep speculating. Such philosophy attracts many followers. So, see, some people, they just show bottle spiritualists, we call them. See, they just practice spirituality. They wear the orange robes and they put all this tilak, everything they wear, but they don't follow any rules and regulations. They say if nothing is required, you don't have to follow any rules and regulations. You can eat onion, garlic, you can eat meat, you can do whatever you want, you can drink, anything you can do. They'll say. but just give me some money. Okay, so some people will be like that. You now see hardly very. There'll be. Like no institution like ISKCON. Very few sampradayas will be there. Remaining all, wherever you go to some ashramas, they will say you can eat whatever you want. Because I've seen my own relatives, they will eat for Ekadasi. They will have upma. That is upma, chapati. They will have. I don't know what kind of fasting is that. They say that we should not eat only rice. Other things we can eat is they will eat chapati nicely. I don't know what Ekadasi fasting is that. And they eat onion, garlic, and what they drink tea, coffee. All they drink. No restriction is there. Okay, so that is the show bottle spiritualists. They say whatever, but still they think that they are practicing spirituality. See, if there are no rules and regulations, how, if you don't do tapasya, how will the body, the mind, and everything be trained to do spirituality? How will the mind be steady? If you are giving all these intoxicants like coffee, and you're drinking, and you're doing onion and garlic is like rajoguna. If you make it passionate, how can you expect spirituality? Spirituality means you have to be in sattva-guna. Only if you follow some rules and regulation can your mind be steady, focused. Otherwise, it will be disturbed. Rajoguna and tamoguna, already anyway we are in rajo and tamoguna. The more we eat, how can we come to sattva? If you don't follow rules and regulations, and if you don't do austerity, right? So we should neglect all these things, like where they say you can do whatever you want, but you still, you give me some money, then you'll be blessed, you'll get liberation. All this is like not accepted. Okay, simplicity. Simplicity is common for all. So you should be simple and straightforward. That's what Prabhupada also says, right? Simple living and high thinking. So non-bind, you should not go for all showing off and all this, right? I have 3-bedroom house, I have this, that, nothing. Your main focus should be with whatever you have, you should be satisfied, and you should use it for propagate, for Krishna consciousness. That's it. Your goal is just to maintain this body, you work, but your main goal is to go back to Krishna, to serve Krishna and go back to Krishna. There also we have to serve Krishna. That's all. Non-violence. Non-violence implies not checking progression of any living entity. See, now here in non-violence, see, generally we are so clever that some people, they say the soul stays forever. See, for example, if you take the body of a hen, the body will anyway perish, we say, but we are not the body, we are the soul. So that doesn't mean we kill the body of the hen and we eat it, right? We have no right to do that. So that's why, see, when you're killing the body of the hen, what you're doing is, suppose for instance the hen is supposed to live for 5 years, and you kill the hen for example, for your tongue satisfaction at the age of when it is 3 years. So you've killed it now, and you're eating it, but it still had 2 years of life, for which again it has to take birth as a hen to complete those 2 years, so that it can progress into its next animalistic life. So we are causing a break by for by killing it and by eating it. We are hindering its progress. Okay, so we should not do that. So by killing it, we are checking the progress of that particular bird or animal. Okay, so that we should not do. We should not cause the hindrance for its spiritual progress, because gradually, it progresses, right? From one stage to another until it comes to the animal life. Okay, so we should not stop that. Next, truthfulness, satyam. Not distort the truth for some personal interest, especially Vedic instructions, misinterpreted Bhagavad Gita commentaries. See, generally, when Prabhupada, he started the ISKCON movement, he read all the Bhagavad Gitas, Bhagavad Gita commentaries. See, all the Bhagavad Gita, the shloka will be the same, translation will be the same. What will vary is the purport will vary. That is very important. That is what we have to read. Generally, what do we all do? We give importance to reading the shlokas. When Gita Jayanti day comes, we give importance to reading the shlokas. Okay, reading the shlokas is good. But what is the main thing is you have to understand the meaning of the shloka and implement it in your life. Okay, just reading the shloka is, I mean, like, it's because it's spoken by Krishna, it is good, okay. But that is not the whole purpose of life. So we have to read we have to understand the purport also. Not, we just read the shloka and the translation, that's all. We don't try to understand the purport, but that is the main thing. So Prabhupada, he read all the purports of other Bhagavad Gitas, and they found that they were giving their own meaning. It was not Krishna's meaning. It was like their Gita. So Prabhupada, that's why he had to write the Bhagavad Gita as it is. Right? He wrote the commentaries or the purports based on our previous acharyas, okay, who are there in our parampara. So Prabhupada just gave what came in the parampara, not of his own accord. He did not say that I think it is like this, I think it should be like this. Nothing of his own. Whatever Krishna said, it is whatever is passed through our acharyas in that disciplic succession, the same thing he wrote in the Bhagavad Gita. So reading the purport is very important. That is the thing. That is what makes the difference. That is where everything varies in the Bhagavad Gita. And that is why, because in ISKCON's Bhagavad Gita, as it is, that purity is maintained. That's why that Bhagavad Gita is the most worldwidely sold Bhagavad Gita now. So many millions of copies are sold. That is the reason, because its purity is maintained. Okay, so that's why the commentary is very important. I mean, like, the purport is very important. So please don't do the mistake of just reading the shloka and the translation, because the shloka and the translation will be the same throughout in all the Bhagavad Gitas. What varies is the commentaries that are given, that purport varies. Purport is actually the thing that we have to understand. Okay, and that we have to implement in our life. Okay, so process of understanding. Okay, what is, okay, the next, freedom from anger, akrodha. Even if there is provocation, one should anger pollutes the whole body. See, even if someone provocates us to get angry, we should not get angry, because when you get angry, how is it that you feel? You feel your whole body is boiling, your whole face becomes red, and your whole body becomes polluted, you feel so agitated, disturbed. So because of somebody, why do you want to get angry, and why do you want to get your whole body polluted and disturbed, So that's why they say, when you get angry, immediately, just, I mean, like, don't speak anything. I mean, like, when somebody tries to provocate you or do something, just don't open your mouth. Just stay calm and just go into one room. That's it. Okay, just try to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. I know it's difficult, very difficult to control and say all that, but practice, please practice. Because it at the end, it affects us, not them. See, when we are shouting, the whole body becomes polluted, becomes disturbed, and you become so wild, the whole, everything, mind gets disturbed, everything is disturbed, right? So anger is a product of passion. We know that, right? When a desire is not fulfilled, what happens? We get angry. Okay, so anger is a product of passion and lust. So if our lust is not satisfied, we get angry. Okay, so that is a mode of passion. Okay, renunciation, tyagaha. So use things properly. That is, so whatever you want to renounce, you use all those objects in Krishna's service. Okay, so use things properly. Tranquility, unaffected by disturbing emotions. Okay, so you are calm in whatever situations, whether it's a painful situation or whether it's a happy situation, you are just calm throughout. Okay, you're peaceful throughout. Aversion to fault finding, apaishunam. Okay, to call a thief is okay, but no unnecessary fault finding or correction. So here, see, if you really find a fault in someone, it's okay to correct him. Okay, see, to call a thief a thief is okay, but if he's not a thief and you still call him a thief, that is wrong, right? So you should not unnecessarily find faults in a particular person. If he's really faulty, okay, fine, that is okay. But unnecessarily, just because you want to find some fault, you find fault, that is wrong. Okay. Compassion for all living entities, daya. Give spiritual knowledge, prasadam. So, Prabhupada, many of Prabhupada's disciples say, what is it that attracted you to go to Srila Prabhupada? Or many of them say it is Prabhupada's compassion. Compassion that attracted, because he had that daya, he had that compassion, that love for, I mean, like he could see that all the living entities, they are struggling in this world, because this world is a place of dukkha, it's dukkhalam ashashvatam, right? He knows that all of them are suffering here. So he came here to give us that spiritual knowledge so that we can get relieved from this material world. So that's why he gave us prasadam, he gave us books, he gave us that spiritual knowledge. Okay, so that is compassion for living entities. He had daya. Freedom of covetousness. Covetousness means greedy, charity, and renunciation. Okay, so greed, freedom from covetous means you should not be greedy. Okay, so nicely you should do charity. Charity means what? For propagating Krishna consciousness. So you should freely give money or funds for whatever for the propagation of Krishna consciousness. And renunciation means what? See, renunciation does not mean throwing everything away. So it means, renunciation means what? Not being attached. It's not being controlled by possessions. So being ready to let go when needed. Okay, so use things properly, especially in Krishna's service. So see, if you're not greedy, you can easily renounce. But if you're greedy, even a small thing feels impossible to give up. Okay. Next, gentleness. Okay, friendliness to all living entities. So he's a friend to all living entities. He has no enemies. He's friendly to everybody. Modesty, hirir. Do not perform abominable actions. Okay, so they do not do wrong, sinful, or dirty actions that hurt others or displease God. So at the same time, they stay humble and are simple in behavior. Okay, so next, steady determination, achapalam, not agitated or frustrated in his efforts. Okay, so even if there is, I mean, like if there is a loss or something, he is not frustrated. Okay, so he gets up. I mean, like he progresses with patience and determination. So with like effort, repeated effort, again he gets up and he strives to go forward. He does not give in. Okay, slowly with patience and determination, he works hard again to succeed. It's not that, oh, if I got a loss, he will like sink down and he will feel bad. Nothing like that. So he will progress with patience and determination. So these are, see, so many good qualities that the divine people have. Forgiveness, kshama. This is for kshatriyas especially. Okay, they're talking about now again, right? So forgive minor offenses of others. See, if they do small offenses, they have to be forgiven. So when you have to forgive, when one is able to curb down his enemies, may under certain conditions show forgiveness. See, kshama means, see, once the king attacks the other king and the king surrenders and he accepts his mistakes, then the king should be in a position to forgive him. When the other enemy king surrenders to him, he should show forgiveness. That is what they are saying. The king should be able to forgive when he knows, understands his mistake, and he surrenders to that king. He should show forgiveness. Okay. Next, fortitude. So this is also especially for Kshatriyas. Mental and fortitude means what? That inner strength. So mental and emotional strength during problems. That is fortitude. Okay. So it means, what is this fortitude means? It means not fleeing in battle, staying calm during war, making decisions under pressure, protecting society even when afraid. So a Kshatriya without fortitude, he becomes weak in leadership. Okay, so he should be strong. His inner emotions should be strong. Okay, next, cleanliness. All, it's for all. So internal mind and heart, external body and dealings with others. So cleanliness means what? Purity inside and outside. So external cleanliness, how? You should have clean body, clean clothes, clean surroundings, and honest and proper dealings. And internal cleanliness, how? Pure thoughts, no cheating mentality, no hidden bad actions, simplicity in heart. So cleanliness means transparency in life. Okay, and they're saying what is especially for Vaishyas, this cleanliness, what that means: no black market or underhanded dealing. See, Vaishyas, they do business, right? So they're saying they should work in an honest way. So no take cheating and I mean like back money or black money, black market, all this they should not do. Underhanded dealings, they're saying. That is cleanliness here. So you should work honestly, you should earn honestly, no earning money in a dishonest way, no black market. So freedom from envy, adroha, means not resentful of another. Means envy means what? They do not feel disturbed by others' success, do not secretly wish harm to anyone, and there is no jealousy in the heart. Okay, so they do not have any jealousy in the heart. They don't no plotting or no harming. So the envy burns the person who carries it. So freedom from envy gives peace. See, as long as you're envious, you're always thinking how I should bring that person down. So your whole heart becomes polluted. But if you're if you're free from envy, you get peace. Okay, Hare Krishna, is everybody able to hear me?
Yes, Mataji, can hear you.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Mataji.
Yes,
Yeah.
Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you. Yeah. So next, the last one is freedom from passion for honor. Must respect others. This is especially for Shudras. One should not be puffed up with unnecessary prestige and honor, but remain in one's own position. So here they're saying, what does this mean actually? Not craving respect or prestige. So they do not demand recognition, and they do not think, oh, why don't they respect me? And they do not become proud because of position. Respect others properly. They remain satisfied in their own duty. Okay, it's like this. See, the Shudras, they may think that sometimes, why don't they respect me? Oh, why should I do this? Okay, they're saying, I mean, like, I also want recognition. So, what they're trying to say is, as a combined as a whole, see, everybody depends on everyone else, right? Be it a Shudra, a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, they all know one category is greater than the other. So, everyone depends on everyone else, right? Interdependent, right? Like how like a body, for example, the head thinks, arms protect, stomach nourishes, legs support, right? That, so we should remain humble. So we should just perform our duty. So Brahmana's duty is to teach, preach, he will do that. Kshatriya is to protect and rule, he will do that. Vaishya means what? Business, he will do that. Food section is Vaishyas. Shudras serve the three. So all are needed, right? Without anyone, we can't survive. So we should remain humble, perform our duty sincerely, and respect the others appropriately. So that keeps society peaceful and spiritually we can progress. Okay. So these are the 26 qualities that divine people have. Okay. So now let's go to 4.
Mataji,
Yes, Prabhuji?
Mataji, which was the last one after which came after freedom from envy?
Here, Prabhuji, you can see, right? Freedom from passion for honor. You can see, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it is freedom from passion for honor. Okay, Prabhuji?
Yes.
Yeah. So let's go to the next shloka. Dambo darpo abhimanascha krodha पारुष्याम् एव च अज्ञानं चाभिजातस्य पार्था सम्पदम् आसुरीम्. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So now Krishna is telling the demonic qualities one by one. So from here you will see all the demonic qualities. Okay, arrogance, pride, anger, conceit, harshness, and ignorance. These qualities belong to those of demonic nature, O son of Pritha. So, Krishna is describing the demonic qualities. Damba means what? Pride. Okay, pretending to be religious or advanced, but inside not sincere. Okay, darpa means what? Arrogance. So feeling superior to others because of wealth, position, knowledge, or power. So he has that arrogance, that uh, pride is there in him because he has more of wealth or position or knowledge. Next, abhimana, conceit, means strong false ego, thinking that I am great, I am independent. Okay, and krodha, anger. So he gets angry easily, especially when his ego is disturbed. See, these people are full of ego that I am something, and when somebody tries to put them down, they get angry. They get anger very easily. And next, parushya means harshness. So speaking cruelly or roughly. So they speak words that hurt others. Agnana, ignorance, not knowing what is right or wrong. So they act whimsically without accepting authority. See, in their ignorance, they think actually what they're doing, they don't know what is right or wrong. Okay, they act per their own whims. What comes to their mind, they do it, and they think that is correct. So they don't follow any scriptures, they don't follow any rules and regulations, nothing. Whatever comes to their mind, they just keep doing it. Okay, so actually, when generally when people hear the word demons, they think that a demon means a person with two horns and teeth, two teeth. I mean, protruding outwards. That is not a demon. Okay, so demons means whose inner nature is against the divine order. Means they don't have all these divine qualities. Who are against the divine quality, they are called demons. Means who don't follow the scriptures, who are against the scriptures, they are called demons. Not like in Kali Yuga, we don't see demons with two horns and teeth protruding outward, right? No, they are not demons. Nowadays, demons are very posh. They're like IT people, nicely they will dress, shoes and everything, spray, scent, nicely everything they'll have. But the thing is, inside their qualities are different. They are totally against the scriptures. So that is demonic. So such people they will even show outward religion outwardly, but they do not follow the principles sincerely. They want respect, honor, and worship without qualification. And they do not accept authority. They act according to their own desire. Okay, so that ego becomes the royal road to hell. So, meaning it leads to suffering. See, all these, the arrogance, pride, anger, conceit, harshness, ignorance, they are, I mean, like they show them the way to hell. Hell means what? It is the royal road to suffering, right? Because they don't accept scriptures, they do whatever comes to their mind. Okay, so that's why. So these are the demonic qualities. From now you'll see, from the shloka onwards, you will see all the demonic qualities being described. Daivi sampad vimokshaya nibandhaya suri mata mashuchah sampadam daivim abhijato asi pandava. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The transcendental qualities are conducive to liberation, whereas the demonic qualities make for bondage Do not worry, O son of Pandu, for you are born with divine qualities. See, if you have more good qualities, you will move towards liberation. So it will help you move towards liberation. But if you have demonic qualities, you will go more towards bondage. So you will get more attached to the material world. But here Krishna is telling Arjuna, don't worry, you have divine qualities. Okay. So why Krishna tells Arjuna, see here you can see, right? Transcendental qualities conducive to liberation and demonic qualities lead to bondage. So Lord Krishna encourages Arjuna that he is born of saintly qualities and his fighting is not demonic. Why, on what basis Krishna considers that Arjuna is born of saintly qualities and his fighting is not demonic? Since Arjuna considers the pros and cons. Okay, so pros and cons. Okay, what are the pros and cons that Arjuna considers? See, Arjuna, he was afraid that fighting may be sinful, right? Arjuna was not acting from some hatred or pride, right? Like Duryodhana, because he wanted the kingdom. Because he wanted out of pride and envy, he wanted the whole kingdom for himself out of sense gratification. But Arjuna was not like that, right? He did not want the kingdom out of hatred or pride. He was confused. See, because of compassion and moral concern, he was like worried that if I kill all my relatives, all of them will die. So out of compassion, he didn't want to fight. Okay, so that shows Arjuna's divine nature and not demonic nature. And one more reason, you see here, right? To perform the regulative principles of different orders of life is transcendental action. Kshatriya shooting arrows at the enemy is considered transcendental and not doing so is demonic. So for a Kshatriya, fighting for justice is his duty. It is his duty, right? As a Kshatriya, he is supposed to fight. So doing that duty properly is spiritual. Means he is spiritual. And avoiding out of weakness, that is, if he doesn't fight, that is demonic. Okay, so that's why Krishna is telling you are on the right path. So that's why you are having divine qualities. Don't worry, O Arjuna. Okay, so these are the two reasons he is telling. Okay, Dvau bhuta sargau lokesmin daiva asura eva cha daivo vistarashah prokta asuram pathame shrunu. Okay, O son of Pritha, in this world there are two kinds of created beings. One is called the divine and the other demonic. I have already explained to you at length the divine qualities. So divine qualities we saw in the initial sloka, right? 1 to 3. In detail, Krishna explained. So now Krishna is telling, now hear from me of the demoniac. So here we can see, right? Krishna is saying two kinds of people, divine and demoniac, right? So both demigods and the demons are born of Prajapati. So both the demigods and demons, they are born from Prajapati. Okay, Praja means what? How the living and the progeny happens from Prajapati. So from Prajapati, both the demigods and the demons are born. And what is the difference between demigods and demons? What differentiates them is obedience to the regulative principles of scriptures. See, the demigods, they follow the regulative principles of the scriptures. The demons, they don't follow. So that is the only difference between the divine and the demoniac. So the divine, they follow the rules and regulations of the scriptures, given in the scriptures. The demons, they don't follow. Okay. So let's go to the next shloka. Pravrittim cha nivrittim cha janana vidur asuraha na shaucham napi chacharo na satyam teshu vidyate. Those who are demonic do not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. See, the demons, they don't know what is to be done and what is not to be done. neither cleanliness, so they don't have cleanliness, nor proper behavior, nor truth is found in them. See, so many qualities Krishna is telling these people don't have. See, so what does do not know what is to be done mean? See, it means that they don't know what is to be done and what is not to be done because they ignore guidance from scripture, elders, or spiritual teachers. That is why they don't know what is to be done and what is not to be done. Okay, so they act based on personal desire. So they act like whatever comes to their mind, they do. Okay, and second, what are they saying? Neither cleanliness. See, external means what they have. They don't have cleanliness means what? They don't care about bathing. See, sometimes people don't bathe for 2-3 days. Especially in America, I've heard. I don't know. I'm not sure. I've heard that they don't bathe for 3-4 days. They just survive on smells and scents. They don't bathe. They don't like bathing. Okay, and many people for a week also they don't bathe. That is how demons are. Okay, they don't care about bathing and they live in dirty surroundings. If you go to their room also, you will see everything scattered here and there. It's so horrible. So even their surroundings are dirty surroundings and they have careless habits. See, you see in the PPT, right? See, they're drinking and they think that is social custom. Okay, having intoxicating like drinking wine, alcohol, they think it is like very nice. It's like a symbol of goodness or something they feel. Right? Without that, we can't survive. See, nowadays it's become a practice that see if you don't do this, they will what do you say? They will treat you as something like unusual, yeah, like out of the box character kind of thing. They will treat you. Like if you're not actually what you're doing is good, but for them it is like they feel that you are the odd one out. Okay, so if you don't do all such things, actually that is what you are doing is correct, what they are doing is wrong, but still they consider it as the other way. Okay, so that is the thing. And internally is like these people, they have impure thoughts, these demons, demonic people, and they're dishonest, they're jealous, they're greedy, they have bad intentions, and they have no spiritual thoughts at all. Okay, and no proper behavior, they're saying, not proper behavior. So means what is proper behavior? Achara means what? Proper conduct means what? Means respecting elders, speaking politely, fulfilling duties, living responsibly, following moral discipline, all this, right? So without proper behavior, society becomes chaotic. If you don't do all this, society becomes chaotic. And next what they're saying, not truth is found in them, not truth. So they do not follow truth. What does truth mean? Speaking honestly, acting sincerely, not manipulating others. Okay, so aligning actions with moral principles. So when truth is ignored, what happens? Trust breaks, fear increases, relationships they weaken. So truth is the backbone for dharma. Okay, so the demons, they don't have all these qualities. Okay, so next 8. Asatyam apratishtam te jagad ahur anishwaram aparaspara sambhutam kim anyat kama haitukam. They say that this world is unreal, that there is no foundation, and that there is no God in control. It is produced of sex desire and has no cause other than lust. See, furthermore, qualities of the demons are told. So this verse describes the thinking pattern of a demonic mentality. See, it's not of a particular person, but the mindset of that demonic mentality. Not one particular person they're talking. The whole demonic mentality, their mindset, how it is that tell here. What do they think? First, they're saying what? the world is unreal. Asatyam, they are saying. Means what? They think life has no real purpose. Okay, nothing is spiritually important. Everything is just temporary and meaningless. So they think that there is no higher truth behind life. So they think that life is just random. It just doesn't really matter. Okay, they think like, see, what do we think that life, as a human being, we think life is so special that we can use it for spirituality and we can get liberated and we can go back to Krishna. It has so much purpose, but for these people, life has no real purpose. They think just enjoyment, sense gratification. Okay, so there is no real purpose to life for them. So life is just random. It just doesn't really matter for them. Okay, that's why they say this world is unreal. And next, what are they saying? There is no foundation. So they think there is no moral rule, no right or wrong in a higher sense, no dharma, no system holding the world together. So they what do they think? There are no real rules. People just make them. Okay. And next, third point, what are they saying? There is no God in control. Means they reject, they don't accept the idea of a supreme controller. Okay, so they think there is no God in control. So they don't, they reject the idea of a supreme controller. Okay, and then they say it is produced of sex desire. Okay, there is no God. And they're saying it arises without cause. Okay, so what without cause means what? Aparaspara sambhutam. Okay, so they think this world just happened by accident. Okay, everything just came by chance. There is no higher reason or creator. Matter just mixed together and life appeared. So they don't think that this material world was created by God. They think that it just came out like that accidentally, and some matter mixed and it just appeared like that. So it arises without cause. They think it has just come up like that. There is no reason. Okay, just matter got mixed and it just came out like that accidentally. Okay, and then they say that, as we saw, that it has no cause other than lust. So they are saying it is caused by lust, kama haitukam. So they think life begins only because of physical desire. Okay, so there is no soul involved. There is no spiritual reason for birth. So what do they mean by there is no spiritual reason for birth? So they think the person is not a soul. They don't believe in the concept of soul. They only believe in the concept of body. So they think birth has no higher purpose, and they believe life is not part of a spiritual journey. Okay, everything is just the result of bodily attraction. So what does this mean? Everything is just the result of bodily attraction means they believe a child is born only because of man and woman are physically attracted. See, they just give so much importance to the body. They just don't accept the concept of soul. Okay, so they believe that a child is born only because of man and women. Just because they interact, they think that child is born, but they don't think that the soul is involved. If the soul is not there, how will the body be created, right? So they don't think that. They only think that if the man and women interact, automatically just the child comes. Okay, that is what they think. There is nothing more behind that than that. So they think that there is no soul, no divine plan, no higher reason involved behind that. Okay, so this verse is describing people who think only matter is real. Everything they think that it is about matter. They think the body is everything, the mind is just the brain working, there is no soul, there is no God, and life has no higher purpose. Okay, so and they believe that life happens by accident. Means what? This material world has come in just by accidentally, just like that. right? It is not created for a purpose. It is not made by Krishna for a purpose, right? They think it has just come out like that by accident, and there is no higher authority watching. So people can do it. See, if there is no higher authority watching, so people can do whatever they want. Right or wrong becomes personal opinion. Okay, so why are, see, one more thing you have to understand, why are these people called demonic? It's like, because when a person thinks, see, there is no God, there is no soul, there is no higher truth, no one is in control, then slowly they will think, the demonic people will think, I can do whatever I want. See, for example, if there is a kingdom, in the kingdom, if there is no king, what will happen? There is no person who will control them, right? So the bad, the robbers, and will come and they will steal everybody, and they will there'll be chaos in the kingdom. I mean, in the society, right? If there is no higher authority ruling the kingdom, I mean, the people, what will happen? The robbers will become more. They will come and start looting everybody. So there'll be chaos. So there'll be no control. So, like that, these people, when they say there is no God, there is no soul, there is no higher truth, there is nobody in control, they think that I can do whatever I want because there is no higher authority, because they don't believe in the concept of God. So they think that, okay, I can do whatever I want. So enjoyment becomes their main goal of life, and right and wrong feels less important, and spiritual practice feels unnecessary. Okay, so if someone believes that there is no higher authority, they may stop feeling responsible for their actions, right? Because we have nobody higher to control. So if we think that we are the controllers, so we can do whatever we want, nobody can stop us. So then the ego grows strong. Okay, so if we have nobody to control, we think we are great, we can do whatever we want. So we do whatever we want. There's nobody to stop us, right? Okay, 9. Following such conclusions, the demoniac who are lost to themselves and who have no intelligence engage in unbeneficial, horrible works meant to destroy the world. Hare Krishna. Okay, so this verse continues describing the demonic mindset. Okay, and who have no intelligence. Okay, so because they believe that there is no God, there is no soul, there is no higher purpose, they become spiritually confused, less intelligent about real life, and they get engaged in harmful actions. And all their actions do not benefit society. They can bring suffering, and they can even lead to destruction. So here they're saying, right, in the translation, the demonic who are lost to themselves. So what does lost to themselves mean? Nashtamanaha. They're saying in the shloka, right? Nashtamano means they're lost to themselves. What does this mean? So they forget their real identity as soul. They think they are only the body. So they lose connection with spiritual knowledge. Okay, and next what are they saying? Who have no intelligence. Alpa buddhayaha. Okay, less intelligence. This does not mean no intelligence. It means they may be smart materially, but they do not understand spiritual truth. Okay, so they don't see the long-term consequences. Okay, and next what are they saying? Engage in unbeneficial, horrible works. Means ugra karmanaha, right? So they perform harsh or harmful activities like exploiting nature, violence, creating destructive technologies, acting only for sense pleasure. See, the goal is enjoyment, not responsibility. For these people, for the demonic people, the goal is enjoyment and not responsibility. See, Prabhupada says that these people, they do horrible works means what? See, already we are anyway, people who are born, they are prone to die. These people, they think themselves great by creating all the nuclear bombs or atomic bombs. See, one bomb if you drop, the whole planet, I mean the people staying, so many people will die, right? So what is the big deal? See, anyway, a person who is born is anyway going to die. By creating these atomic bombs or nuclear bombs, you are making death even more fast. So what is the credit that you are doing? You are getting awards for creating the atomic bomb. What is the big deal? See, when scientists created this atomic and nuclear bomb, they get awards. But what is the use of that award recognition? Because people are dying more faster than they should. So, in this way, that's what Prabhupada is saying, that these people, they're exploiting nature by creating all these bombs or whatever. They're creating more violence, they're creating destructive technologies. Okay, but they're acting only for sense pleasure. Okay, and what they're saying, which are meant to destroy the world. Okay, so when people act without spiritual understanding, moral responsibility, higher accountability, then what happens? Society becomes violent, nature gets damaged, and peace disappears. Okay, so here what they're trying to say is, see, if someone believes life is only for enjoyment, see, many of us, that's what is our goal. We want to enjoy life, earn more money, enjoy, right? But for such people, if someone believes life is only for enjoyment, then they may act without caring about the future, without caring about others, without caring about spiritual truth. So that kind of thinking can harm the world. That is what this verse is warning all of us about.
Mataji,
Yes, Prabhuji?
Mataji, relating this, I have a question.
Yes,
Uh,
Prabhuji?
Mataji, but like how the mentality of only like some beings uh, harm the environment.
Hmm. No, I didn't get
How,
your question, Prabhuji.
like Mataji, for instance, like if only some people think like this, then how can their thinking process affect the whole environment? How can it cause? Uh, how can it destroy the environment?
No, Prabhuji, we are not saying all are demonic people, right? The demonic mentality is like that, we are saying. See, not everybody in the world or are demons, right? They are divine people and they're demons also, right? Correct. So we are talking about the demonic mentality people. So they are like that. So the demonic people, they think that they have done something good. They, by clearing this, Prabhupada personally says they think they have done a good thing by inventing the nuclear bombs. But what is the use of nuclear bomb? They're enhancing death. See, death is anyway, when a person is born, death is anyway there. So what is the big deal that they have done by creating these atomic bombs? In fact, they are more bringing it close to death fast. There's, in fact, Prabhupada is saying, do something such that you can create birth. So you create, at least Prabhupada used to say that you create a small ant. I will accept your greatness. Death anyway we will die. By that atomic bomb, you are enhancing death, even you are bringing death even more closer. But in fact, you try to create one small animal like an ant. Show us if you can do that. Then we'll accept your greatness, Prabhupada used to say. Okay, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji.
So Prabhupada used to say, do something good. If you are able to create something, like you are able to give, create an animal or a birth. I mean, like if you are able to produce one ant or something, that is greatness. But by creating an atomic bomb, anyway, death will come. you are making it even more further faster. You are killing people because of creating these bombs. That's what Prabhupada is telling. Just giving an example of how demonic people are. Okay, 10. The demonic taking shelter of insatiable lust, pride, and false prestige, and being thus illusioned, are always sworn to unclean work, attracted by the impermanent. Okay, so this verse explains how the demonic mindset they behave. Okay, so because of illusion, such people take shelter of what do you say, endless desires. See, insatiable lust, pride, and false prestige, and being thus illusioned, they are sworn to unclean work, attracted by the impermanent. Okay, fine. So here they are trying to say, because of illusion, such people, they take shelter of endless desires. They become proud and full of false prestige, and they hold on to temporary things. Okay, and they engage in impure habits. So let's see one by one. Okay, so taking shelter of, first they're saying in the translation, taking shelter of insatiable lust. Okay, dushpuram kamam, that they're talking about. Okay, so they depend on desires that can never be satisfied. So insatiable lust means what? Lust is never satisfied. So they keep on increasing their desires. Their desires are never satisfied. So no matter how much they get, so they want more money, they want more enjoyment, more power, more attention. See, it is like drinking salty water. See, the more you drink, the more thirsty you become. Right? It never quenches your thirst if you drink salty water. Right? And next, what are they saying? Full of pride and false prestige. Right? Dambha, mana, and mada. So they think, I am great, I am superior, I am very advanced. So even if their actions are wrong, they justify themselves. See how demons are, the qualities of demons. Even if they do wrong also, they try to prove that they are right. Okay, so even if their actions are wrong, they justify that they are right. And third, what are they saying? They are attracted to temporary things. Okay, they hold tightly to the things that will not last, like what? Wealth, beauty, fame, position. So they forget that everything material is temporary, but still they hold on to all these things tightly. Okay, and what else is said? Sworn to unclean work. Right? So they become attached to habits that degrade them. Unclean words means what? To habits, they become attached to habits that degrade them. So instead of purifying life, they increase sense indulgence, addictions, exploitative behavior, and they may even create their own ideas of religion to justify their lifestyle. Okay, so what are they trying to say in this verse is, see, when a person is controlled by endless desire and pride, they chase temporary pleasures, they ignore purity, and they think that they are progressing, but actually they are moving away from peace and spiritual truth. Okay, so 11 and 12. They believe that to gratify the senses unto the end of life is the prime necessity of human civilization. Thus, there is no end to their anxiety. Being bound by hundreds of thousands of desires, by lust and anger, they secure money by illegal means for sense gratification. Okay, so these verses describe what happens when a person believes sense enjoyment is the main goal of life. Okay, such people think that enjoying the senses is the most important thing in life. So, because of this belief, they remain in full anxiety until death. Why, we will see in detail again. I will just give the simple thing first and then I will explain in detail. Okay, why? See, they think that enjoying the senses is the most important thing in life. What will happen? So these people, they remain in full anxiety until death, and they are tied by many desires. They are controlled by lust and anger. They try to collect money even by wrong means just to enjoy. Okay, so first, what are they saying here? Endless anxiety they have. See, thus there is no end to their anxiety. So they have endless anxiety. Means what? They're always worried about what? How to earn more, how to enjoy more, how to protect what I have. Oh, what if I lose it? So their plans never end. See, even near death, they still think, oh, I have not finished my plans. So the mind never rests. Even at the on the deathbed, also he requests the doctor, oh doctor, my business is still not set. Can you please give me 1 year time, 2 years time? I will finish all the plans. I'll set everything. My business goes, everything will be done. Can you please give me 2 more years? As if everything is in the hands of the doctor. He's requesting the doctor. Right? They're so foolish. If the doctor could really save that person, he would have saved him, right? That they don't understand. Still foolishly, they request the doctor, please save me, give me another 1 or 2 years. I will. That time also, he's not thinking about spiritual Krishna or something. He's still thinking about the temporary things. He's thinking about his business and everything. Okay. And second, what they're saying, he's bound by hundreds of desires. So they are tied by many ropes of desires. Okay, one desire finishes, then 10 more desires appear. So it is just, like countless. So he's bound by hundreds of desires. And next, controlled by lust and anger. So when desires are fulfilled, what happens? They want more desires. But if the desire is not fulfilled, what happens? They get angry. So their life swings between cravings and frustrations. Okay, so if they get, they are greedy, they want more. If they don't get, they get angry. So their whole life is, it swings between these two. Okay, the cravings and frustration. Means wants and anger. It just rotates between these two. Okay, and next in the translation, they're saying collecting wealth by wrong means. Okay, since for the demonic people, enjoyment is the goal. So they may cheat, exploit, lie, they may act unfairly just to gain money for pleasure. Okay, so here they're trying to say that if a person believes enjoyment is everything, then their mind becomes restless, desires multiply, anger increases, anxiety never ends, wrong actions become justified. So, what is the result you get? Not peace, but more entanglement. Okay, so let's go to 13 to 15. The demonic person thinks, so much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future more and more. He is my enemy, and I have killed him, and my other enemy will also be killed. I am the Lord of everything. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect, powerful, and happy. I am the richest. What is this? Okay, so let me open. I think it is. Okay, so I'm perfect, powerful, and happy. I am the richest man surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices. I shall give some charity, and thus I shall rejoice. In this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance. Okay, so here in these verses, Krishna is describing the inner thoughts of a demonic minded person. What do they think? See what is the thought process of a demon? So what he thinks. So what does he think about wealth? So he's saying that today I've earned this much money, tomorrow I will earn even more. So this is mine now. It will increase again and again. So what is their mind thinking about? So the mind is always calculating profit. Okay, so this is what they think about wealth. And about enemies. What does he think? That person is my enemy. I have defeated him. I will defeat others also. It means that if anybody comes, is an obstruction in his path of sense gratification, he tries to kill them. He finishes them and moves on. Okay, so he wants to be the topmost. If anybody is there as a competition, he tries to finish them. He kills that person and then he moves ahead. So for him, his sense gratification is more important. So life becomes competition and domination. Okay, and what do they think about themselves? They think that I am the Lord, I am the enjoyer, I'm powerful, I'm perfect, I'm happy, I'm the richest, and no one is equal to me. Okay, and what do they think about religion? I will perform sacrifice, I will give charity, I will enjoy, but even charity and sacrifice are done for show, pride, or name, or for fame, not for humility or devotion. Okay, just for show off, he does that. Okay, and what is the real problem? They are deluded by ignorance. See, last in the translation, they're saying, in this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance. So that is the real problem. They are deluded by ignorance. They think wealth makes them secure, power makes them superior, enemies prove their strength, religion increases their prestige. But they forget everything is temporary, the body is temporary, the position is temporary. Okay, so what do these verses tell us? That these verses show a person whose mind is full of pride, greed, competition, ego, desire for control. Their life revolves around my wealth, my power, my victory, my enjoyment. So when I becomes everything, that wisdom or that learning disappears. This is called demonic mentality. Okay, everything rotates on I, my. Okay, so this is the demonic mentality. So now let's go to the next shloka. Yeah, 16. अनेकचित्तविभ्रान्ता मोहजालासमावृताः प्रसक्ताः कामभोगेषु पतन्ति नरके अशुचौ. Thus perplexed by various anxieties and bound by a network of illusions, one becomes too strongly attached to sense enjoyment and falls down into hell. Okay. Yeah. So this verse says that people with demonic mentality are confused by many worries. Okay. Various anxieties they have, right? So they're confused by many worries. They're caught in a net of illusion, deeply attached to sense pleasure, slowly falling into a dark and impure condition. Okay, so one by one we'll see. See, Aneka Chitta Vibhranta. Okay, if you see in the shloka, Aneka Chitta Vibranta means what? They are confused by many anxieties. So their mind is never peaceful. They always think how to earn more, how to defeat others, how to protect my status. So their thoughts multiply like restless monkeys jumping from branch to branch. Okay, so they're always thinking. Okay, and next what they're saying? Moha jala samavritaha, covered by a net of illusion. Moha means what? Illusion. Jala means net. So moha jala samavritaha, covered by a net of illusion. So moha means what? Illusion. Jala means what? Net. So like a fish is trapped in a fishing net, they do not even realize they are trapped. They believe I am the controller. I earned everything by my own power. There is no higher law. But actually, they are bound by karma and ignorance. So these people, they don't believe on karma. They think that I am the controller. I only, by my hard work, I earned everything by my own power. So there is no higher law. Okay, they don't even agree that there is karma. They don't understand that they're actually bound by karma and ignorance. Okay, and next line, prasaktaha kama bhogeshu means they're too attached to sense enjoyment. Okay, sense enjoyment becomes their main goal: eating, pleasure, wealth, power, recognition. So they do not see life as spiritual growth, they see life as enjoyment, competition. So for them, attachment becomes addiction. So then what happens? Patanti narake ashuchau. They fall into an unclean, hellish state. So this does not mean in what like. So this does not mean like some future hell. It means that a mind full of greed. Patanti narake ashuchau means a mind full of greed, a heart full of envy, a life full of fear. So that itself becomes hell like, because they have no peace, there is no satisfaction, there is no inner cleanliness. That itself is a hellish state for them. It's not like, like in the future they will see hell, but living here itself is a hell for them. Okay, so because their mind is full of greed, full of envy, full of fear. So even while living there, the place itself becomes like a hell because they have no peace, no satisfaction, no inner cleanliness. So when a person believes everything is due to their own power, ignores karma, ignores higher law, lives only for enjoyment, their anxiety increases, their illusion increases, pride increases, and peace decreases. Okay, next. Atmasambhavitaः स्तब्धा धनमानमदान्विताः यजन्ते नाम यज्ञैस्ते dambhenavidi-purvakam, self-complacent and always impudent, deluded by wealth and false prestige. They sometimes proudly perform sacrifices in name only, without following any rules and regulations. Okay, so here Krishna continues to describe the demonic mentality. So such people are, Krishna is saying, they're self-satisfied and proud, stubborn and arrogant, deluded by wealth and status, performing religious rituals only for show, not following proper rules. Okay, so now let's discuss in detail. Atma Sambhavitaha, self-complacent, means what? These people think, I am great, I am special, I know everything. So they praise themselves inside their own mind. Okay, and next what they're saying, Stabdaha, means what? Proud and stubborn. They do not listen to advice. They do not accept correction. They reject authority or scriptures. Next, what they're saying, dhana mana madhanvitaha. So they're blinded by dhana, wealth, mana, prestige. Okay, they're blinded by wealth and prestige. So wealth gives them pride. Fame gives them intoxication. So instead of becoming grateful, they become inflated. Yajante nama yagnaihi means what? They perform sacrifice in name only. Means they do many rituals. They may even donate money. They may organize religious events. But what is the purpose? To show others, just to show, just for the purpose to show others, to gain respect, to increase reputation, to get name, fame. For that purpose, they do rituals. Next, Dambena Avidhi Purvakam. So, out of pride, Dambena means pride, and without following proper rules. Avidhi Purvakam. Avidhi means without following proper rules. So, these people, they don't care about scriptural guidance, discipline, purity of intention. So, they create their own methods and say, this is my path. I'm following my path. That is enough. So they don't follow the scriptures. They create their own rules and regulations and they say, this is correct. This is my path. This is what I follow. That is enough. Okay. Okay, let's go to 18. Ahankaram balam darpam kamam krodam cha samshritaha mam atma paradeheshu pradvishanto abhyasuyakaha. Bewildered by false ego, strength, pride, lust, and anger, the demon becomes envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in his own body and in the bodies of others, and blasphemes against the real religion. See, like how Shishupal, he was a cousin of Krishna, but he became so envious, jealous of Krishna, and Krishna was so merciful that he promised his mother, or mother of Shishupal, that until 100 mistakes, not small mistakes, that too, major mistakes, right? 100 major mistakes if he makes, till that time he will forgive. And beyond that, he will be killed. Okay, so that's how Shishupala dies. So 100th mistake, after the 100th mistake, when he blasphemes on the Rajasuya Yagna, how come you are worshipping him, Krishna, who is a cowherd boy? We don't know whether he's a Kshatriya also, and he blasphemes Krishna. So that is when Krishna, he throws the Sudarshan Chakra and he kills him. Out of envy, we are just trying to see how people who out of envy, they, blaspheme the Supreme Lord. Okay, so here this verse, talks about, further talks deeper about the demonic mentality. So such people take shelter of false ego, power, pride, lust, anger. So because of this, they become envious of God, who is present in their own heart and in their heart of others. They criticize and reject true religion. So here, what are they saying in the shloka? Ahankaram means what? False ego. They think I am the controller, I am independent, I am supreme. They forget they are dependent on so many things just to live. Okay, how can they think that they are independent when they are dependent on God for so many things? See, what are the things that we are dependent on generally? Can we breathe without air? Can we eat without sunlight? We can't grow food also, right? We need sunlight for light and heat for to grow our crops. And can the heart beat? And even the strongest person depends on oxygen. They did not create water, they did not invent parents, they did not design a body that they did not assemble, time they cannot stop. So many things are there. The digestion that is happening in our body. So nothing is happening for our own thing. Nothing is independent. We are all dependent. But still, those people, demonic people, say we are independent. Okay, next there in the shloka, they're saying balam darpam means what? Balam, strength, and pride. Darpam means pride. So if they have power, influence, money, intelligence, they think I am superior. So nowadays that's what the politicians think, right? I have the strength, and if I have power, influence, money, I am superior. That's what these people think. Right? Next, kamam krodam means lust and anger. So uncontrolled desire leads to frustration. So if your desire is not fulfilled, you get angry. Right? Frustration turns into anger. Next, pradvishantaha. They become envious of God. Right? This is very important. So this verse says God is present in their own body, in the bodies of others, but they don't like the idea that there is a higher authority. Okay, they don't like anybody above them. So even the idea of God feels like competition for them. So they always want to be the highest. They don't even want to agree that there's a person called God who's above them, because they feel it is like somebody is competing with us. So even the idea of God feels like competition for them. Okay, so this verse says that when a person is ruled by ego, pride, desire, and anger, they think they are supreme. They reject higher authority. They become envious. They harm others and they harm themselves. 19. Tanaham dvishatah kruran. Please bear with me for another 5 minutes, please. My humble request, will finish this 19th and 20th are the two last shlokas. So please kindly bear me just for another 5 minutes. Please complete it very fast. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. So, tan aham dvishatah kruran samsareshu naradhaman shipami ajasram shubhan ashurishu eva yonishu. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are lowest among men, are cast by me into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. So, Krishna is saying here, those who are deeply envious, cruel, and hateful towards the divine, means towards Krishna, are repeatedly placed into lower demonic births, not by accident, not randomly, but according to divine supervision. Okay, so Krishna himself puts them under demonic species of life. It is not by accident. That's what Krishna is trying to say in this shloka. So what does when Krishna says are cast by me really mean? So when Krishna says I cast them, it does not mean that he angrily throws someone down into punishment. Okay, so it means that, see, every person develops a certain type of thinking and behavior. And see, if someone constantly lives with envy, anger, violence, pride, hatred for God, then their mind and heart becomes shaped by those qualities. After death, the next body matches that mindset, obviously. So just like, see, if you plant a mango seed, a mango tree grows. And if you plant a neem seed, a neem tree grows. So the result matches the seed, right? So Krishna, he does not force anybody. He simply oversees the system of karma. So he gives the soul a body that fits its desires and mentality. So here, I cast them means what? I arrange their next birth according to the life they have chosen. Okay, that is Krishna's supervision. So it is not Krishna being cruel, because see, these demonic people, they're selfish, cruel, they have that kind of mentality. So according to that mentality, at the time of death, they will be thinking of that only, right? So Krishna is saying, for their mentality only, I will give them a body. Okay, so I arrange the next birth according to the life they have chosen. That's what Krishna is saying. And here they are saying, are cast by me into the ocean of material existence. So what is this ocean of material existence? So the material life is compared to an ocean. Why? Because because this material existence, material life, like an ocean, is very deep. It is very hard to cross, and it has constant waves like what? Repeated birth and death. So just like in a real ocean, you cannot easily swim and reach the other side. If a person keeps living with selfishness, anger, and harmful actions, they continue taking birth again and again. So they stay longer in this ocean of material life. But if someone turns towards goodness and devotion, he can cross the ocean safely. Then he can go back to Godhead. Okay, so an important point is like you have to understand that, see, so long you're tossing in the cycle of birth, like even the, what do you say, even the most fallen soul can turn towards devotion anytime. See, such a demonic mentality person may come in contact with a devotee, and he may start practicing devotional life. So at that time, the cycle of birth and death may stop for him. Right? So this is important. We have to know that there is always a chance to stop this demonic mentality. It's not that every time they'll be circling in this cycle of birth and death. Okay, there is a chance when a devotee meets a demonic person and he gets changed, he starts practicing devotional service, then he may come out of this ocean of material life. Okay, and one more point. In the previous verse, what did the demonic person say? He said that I'm independent, right? So in this verse, Krishna is showing, see, you're not independent in determining your next birth. It is in my hand. Your next birth is in my hand, Krishna is saying. Okay. So last sloka. Attaining repeated birth. Okay, attaining repeated birth among species of demonic life, such persons can never approach me. Gradually, they sink down into the most abominable type of existence. Okay, so Krishna is saying here people who live with demonic qualities take birth again and again in similar conditions. Because of this, they do not come closer to him. Instead, they slowly go to lower and more painful states of life. See, here they are saying birth after birth means what? If a person keeps the same negative mindset without changing, they continue in the same cycle. See, it's like a student who refuses to learn and must repeat the same class again and again if he doesn't study, right? So, and here they are saying they cannot approach me. Such persons can never approach me. What does this mean? This does not mean Krishna blocks them from coming. See, it means it is their own mindset that keeps them far away. See, if the sun is shining and if someone closes their eyes, they cannot see it, right? So, in the same way, when the heart is full of pride, anger, and hatred, it becomes difficult to feel God's presence. Okay, so then that's why gradually they sink down to the most abominable type of existence. So they go to lower conditions. So lower condition means they into more ignorance, more suffering. So less awareness, less spiritual understanding. So it is a gradual fall caused by repeated wrong action, wrong choices. See, because they're doing the same wrong things again and again, that's why they're getting the same demonic mentality. So, so what I mean, like, see, important understanding about mercy. See, Krishna is still merciful. Okay, if someone repeatedly rejects guidance, the law of karma continues to act. See, the moment a person, see, if you do the same thing, karma will act the same. You'll get bad karma itself, right? But the moment a person sincerely turns towards goodness, then the direction changes. Okay, so the verse this so this verse is not meant to frighten us. It's not like saying that we are stuck up in this demonic life again and again and again. Yeah, there is no chance for us, nothing like that. So it's just to wake us up gently. So actually, chapter 16 is showing us two roads. In conclusion, we have to understand. See, one road lifts the soul upward, okay, and the other road keeps the soul bound. So, and every day through our thoughts and actions, we chose which road to walk. It's up to us to decide which road we want to take. Okay, so this ends the chapter 20. Oh, oh, there's still 21, 22. I'm so sorry. Then we'll stop here. We'll just try to take 21 tomorrow. I thought this it's just till 20. Okay, so we'll just take this tomorrow along with the next thing. Okay, tomorrow. I'm so sorry. I thought 20 was the last sloka. Okay, so we'll stop here because it's